We're mic'd up tonight to talk about what's happening in baseball and what's going on with baseball pitchers cheating and what's going on in the sport. We have a very special guest to talk about this. He is the one and only, dramatic pause, Barry Laminack. He's the host of Barry on Deck and the Houston Sports Show weekly on CW39 in Houston. Barry, I really appreciate you coming on. I've been trying to get you on the show for a while, but I didn't know what we'd talk about. But let's talk about Major League. And Major League Baseball is starting down yet another cheating scandal. Pitchers, long-standing history of using gripping agents, as they like to call them. It's catching up with them, with batting being historically bad. Barry, yes or no? Pitchers have gone too far now.
I say yes because of the results that you're seeing on the field. You know, we went through the steroid era. There was the loaded bat era. You know, there was obviously the scuffing the ball, spitball, Gaylord Perry era. It's this pendulum that swings back and forth. And now we're in the sticky stuff era of pitching, and it looks like the dead ball era. I mean, these slash lines are at all-time lows, historic lows for some really good hitters. I think baseball has to get a handle on this because, let's be real, the stars aren't always on the mound. They're at the plate, right? The Tatises of the world are the stars. I mean, DeGrom is great and all, but I'd rather see Tatis Jr. do a bat flip and run the bases, and that ain't happening like it should be.
No, you do a bat flip these days, you might get punched in the face, but that's a different story. Do you think spider tack, which is one of these main agents that players are using, and these other substances, do you think that does more harm than the exhausting application of analytics that's made baseball home run or bust? Do you think that does more harm, the spider tack?
You know, it can. I mean, if it gives these pitchers a significant unfair advantage, then I think you are harming the sport, right? Like, there's this notion that, hey, look, if we could just use a little sunscreen and rosin just to get a better grip on the ball. I mean, you heard Garrett Cole the other night saying, look, it was ridiculous. I went out there. Let us do something. Let's find a compromise, which I'm okay with. They allow rosin. So maybe just let's take it to level 2, right? But to go to the spider tack to where spin rates get so ridiculous that the movement on the baseball becomes just unrealistic to hit, then that becomes a problem because, you know, are we going to, I'll tell you what, if all of the pitchers want to use spider tack, cool, but let's allow teams to steal signs too.
Rosin and sunscreen is the original sticky substance these players used. And I heard a great interview where David Sampson, the former president of the Marlins, said they used to have a vat of sunscreen in the dugout. He also was quick to remind you that the Marlins back then played in a dome. They didn't need sunscreen there. Now, speaking of playing in the dome, one of these players who has admitted to using sticky substances is Tyler Glasnow, the Rays pitcher. And he said he quit cold turkey. Now he has an injury to his elbow. He says going cold turkey hurt him. This feels like an excuse and a pretty dramatic one, no?
I mean, my whole take on this is pretty simple. Tyler, buddy, sorry you got hurt. But if you didn't learn how to pitch without cheating, that's not baseball's fault. That's your fault. Are you telling me you've been using spider tack and sticky stuff since Little League? Come on, fam. We all know the truth. You want to use it. You got injured. It happened to be a coincidence, and you want to blame it on the fact that you didn't use the spider tack. That's not the case. And if it is, did you belong, really?
I think it's an interesting point you make. And, you know, I've heard somewhere there's this, maybe this is some grandstanding heading into the CBA that players are trying to get out in front and create a little buffer and some negotiations that'll play out now in front of the fans now, as opposed to waiting until December when the CBA gets negotiated. Now, there is some irony here, man, and I know you have a take here. There is some grand irony with the Astros being clowned daily for trash can beating. And now you've got pitchers out here pretty much openly saying that they cheat. What's your take on this?
Hey, I am wearing a shirt, Andrew. I don't know if you can see this.
I love the shirt.
I love your shirt. I'm glad we cheated. So my take on this is, so now all of a sudden we're going to start enforcing rules and holding everybody accountable, when the fact of the matter is we knew all along that it wasn't just the Astros that were stealing signs. I mean, there was recently somebody came out on Twitter and basically just lambasted all of baseball. We've known cheating has existed in baseball for as long as baseball has existed. So the problem as an Astros fan that you have with this is that they got caught doing what everybody else was doing, but they weren't punished like everybody else. They were made an example of. So it's going to be interesting now what baseball does, right? Let's go back a little prior to when the Astros got busted. It was the Yankees and the Red Sox that are the reason the Astros got the penalty they got, because they were the ones that were cheating and the reason why the rule and the memo had to be created. So now are we going to look at this and say, all right, any pitcher that goes forward from here on out, if you use this spider tack or this sticky stuff, now you're going to get the same punishment and the same scrutiny that the Astros got? I don't believe that, because I think the problem is you're talking about one team versus your individual players that you're going to have to admonish and some of your superstars at the same time, right? So I don't think it's quite the same treatment that we're going to see with these pitchers as they continue to cheat, because I think they will. They're just going to try to be sneakier about it. But yeah, as an Astros fan, it's pretty upsetting that everybody's like, well, we're all cheating, so what's the big deal? Let us. What? Where was this 2 years ago?
It would have certainly changed how the Astros cheating scandal would have been looked at. You know, baseball always has these large-scale cheating scandals. It's not like other sports like the NFL, where it's really just the Patriots. But anyways, just have these isolated incidents. Baseball always has these large-scale, everyone's doing it. Do you feel like there is, where do you think this is heading? Where do you think the sticky substances on the balls is heading? And where do you think these rules in baseball are heading?
I think there's going to be some compromises. I think baseball has always been pretty stubborn as a sport to evolve. I think what they're going to have to do is start to accelerate their growth and evolution as a sport. And I think what that means is, hey, look, if sticky stuff is important to you, if having a better grip on the baseball, because maybe the baseballs that we manufacture aren't good enough for pitchers to get a quality grip on, maybe, like I said earlier, maybe we upgrade what you're allowed to use on the mound. Let us put out a solution on the mound that pitchers can use, that we can control. And at the same time, if we're worried about sign stealing, let's put electronic stuff in catchers' ears and pitchers' ears and a bench coach and let them talk that way. And hey, maybe we'll let batters cork the bat. I mean, this is with the craziness of it all, right? Like, and where do you draw the line? But I think what really in serious has to happen is there has to be some discussions about what's fair and what can we change? What can we compromise on so that pitchers can get a better grip on the ball? Hitters aren't in danger of being injured by, wild pitches, because those are up too now. Let's be real. So there's got to be compromise. Just the problem is baseball's not good at compromise with the players union, and they're not good at evolution as a sport.
No, they're also, though, they're very good at turning a blind eye. And we have seen that over the history of this game.
True.
Well, he is Barry Laminack. You can check him out daily on Barry on Deck. It streams live on YouTube from 2 to 4 o'clock every day. You can follow him on Twitter at Barry is Funny. Barry, I really appreciate you coming on and talking about what's happening in baseball.
Hey, this was outstanding, Andrew. Thank you for having me.